There it is. That's the inside of Building 6. The walls are intact, the basement is intact, and nobody has a friggin' clue what could do this. I wonder what's going through his head. There's no desks, there's no chairs, no office furniture, there's no bathrooms. Everything is rusted, everything is hanging symmetrically straight down, and the floor is intact. Does it look like any big chunks of metal came down here and smashed all this in? What smashed all this in? If it got smashed in, nothing, say, or you would see it here right now. The basement's intact, the walls are intact. And so this is something, you know, I can't explain it. It's not a nuclear explosion. It's not nanothermite that done something like that. It's not an air blast over it or some kind of obvious thing. There's people everywhere. Nobody knows what happened to this. It's a big friggin' mystery. And it's certainly not explosives. It's certainly not some kind of incendiary devices. It's not some kind of kinetic energy devices. Even though you see how everything is hanging, but it's not kinetically smacked apart and blown apart. Everything is symmetrical. So there's no, and everything is, all the offices are empty and void of the floors and wall boards and doors and any kind of framing. It's just totally missing. This, you can see in here, is but the only thing I've seen with ceilings left in it, just that one little corner section over here. But everything else is obviously missing. And that's where one of the towers kind of almost spilled over, and people said that's what crushed the inside of it. But now we finally see that that certainly wasn't a factor. Nobody knows what happened here. And let's go and look at that post right here. See that post right there? Here's a better shot of it. Now look at the around his feet there. You can see everything is like it's a disassociation. It never got crushed. You can see that. Look, it never got crushed. Everything is missing. All the furniture is missing. Everything. All the color is missing. All the walls and everything else, like I say. And it's just even reaching way into these places. It's like it all got sucked out. But where did it go? It didn't go down to the floor. Because there's the floor. See that car there? The parking lot's still intact. All this never went down to the parking lot. It got broke a bit, but it never went down there. And you can see everything is missing. There's no indication these were offices, or this was an office building at any given time. And you can see where one of the towers spilled over, and people said that's what done the damage. But you can see, yeah, it spilled over, but that stuff never took out the core of a 500,000 square foot building. And I don't know what done it, but there it is. That's the inside of Building 6. The walls are intact, the basement is intact, and nobody has a friggin' clue what could do this. And that's where one of the towers kind of almost spilled over, and people said that's what crushed the inside of it. But now we finally see that that certainly wasn't a factor. Nobody knows. According to Wiki on February 1st, 2003, the Space Shuttle Columbia, trying to re-enter Earth's atmosphere at Mach 25, 17,500 miles per hour, or 27,359 kilometers an hour.
Encountering the atmosphere above the Pacific Ocean to the north of the Hawaiian Islands.
Willie, we're with you on remaining APU start.
Pilot Willie McCool calling down that he's starting the 2 remaining auxiliary power units on board now, so all 3 will be up and running. They supply power for the shuttle's hydraulic systems. Columbia's altitude now 71 statute miles as it enters Earth's atmosphere above the Pacific Ocean en route to the Kennedy Space Center. Its speed 17,000 miles per hour.
The shuttle levels its wings, nose up about 45 degrees, and a series of 4 banks meant to slow the shuttle down.
Columbia with wings level and nose angled up about 40 degrees to control heating as it descends into the atmosphere. Its altitude now 68 miles. As Columbia descends into the atmosphere and approaches the continental United States, it'll perform the first in a series of 4 banks it performs as it approaches the Kennedy Space Center. the first bank to the right, then back to the left, then back to the right, and then a final bank to the left as it approaches Kennedy and the shuttle landing facility runway. Those designed to dissipate speed for the shuttle as it descends into the atmosphere toward landing.
First bank slows them down to 13,200 miles per hour, or 21,200 kilometers an hour.
40 miles. Speed 13,200 miles per hour.
At 200,000 feet up, not only is the shuttle screaming along at 5 miles a second, but the temperature from the friction in the air reaches 3,000 degrees. Both Wiki and the New York Times says Columbia disintegrated, and Fox News says disintegration. By contrast, New Scientist reported Columbia was traveling at over 20,000 kilometers an hour when it broke up. But we know they recovered over 80,000 pieces of the Columbia, like the landing gear, with the wheels still on it.
Moving the 89,400 pieces of Columbia is expected to be completed by October the 1st.
Flight 93 alleged to have crashed in the field, and the landing gear is alleged to have atomized. In Shanksville, Pennsylvania, this was a passenger jet that was traveling 26 times slower than the space shuttle at only 500 miles an hour. It leaves no wreckage for first responders, who never even found a wedding ring for the loved ones to have closure. Maybe it should head over to CNN and report a wreckage miles away.
And Miles, it ended at the site you can see over my left shoulder, marked by the American flag. That is where United Flight 93 crashed into the earth and nearly vaporized after a heroic...
And just like Flight 93 in Shanksville, Flight 77 at the Pentagon leaves no seats, wings, luggage, engines, tails, not even bodies. Not even a pair of sneakers survived Flight 77 crash at the Pentagon.
But from my close-up inspection, there's no evidence of a plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon. The only site is the actual side of the building that's crashed in, and as I said, the only pieces left that you can see are small enough that you could pick up in your hand. There are no large tail sections, wing sections, a fuselage, nothing like that anywhere around, which would indicate that the entire plane crashed into the side of the Pentagon.
We got over 80,000 pieces of the Space Shuttle Columbia traveling 26 times faster at 21,200 kilometers an hour.
Moving the 89,400 pieces of Columbia is expected to be completed by October the 1st.
It is hard to conceive, but 3 days ago, both World Trade Towers rose 1,362 feet into the sky. Engineers at the firm that built the building's best guess to account for the missing 1,200 feet of material from each tower is that large portions simply vaporized into the dust that rained down on New Yorkers immediately after the collapse. It was that powerful.
Get out of here!
We're talking here about 43,600 windows, 600,000 square feet of glass, 200,000 tons of structural steel, 5 million square feet of gypsum, 6 acres of marble, and 425,000 cubic yards of concrete, turned in good part into a cloud, says environmental medical doctor Stephen Levin.
I was astonished at the degree to which solid materials were turned into pulverized dust as a consequence of that building collapse. I think it was striking.
425,000 cubic yards of cement turned to dust. Let's divide that by the typical 8-yard cement trucks you see every day for context, and that would work out to 53,125 cement trucks. Let me say that again, 53,125 of your average, typical everyday cement trucks. And let's say each truck is 30 feet long. Multiply that by 53,125 is 1.6 million foot, or 318 miles of trucks in a line, tailgate to bumper, give or take 50 or 60 miles. Or think of 10 container ships full of cement trucks to understand how much cement turned to dust. 6 acres of marble turned to dust. Look up 6-acre islands for sale, and if you still can't wrap your mind around how much marble that is, Imagine you have to go on that island with a wheelbarrow and bring 6 acres of heavy marble to a boat, and you can't text or tweet or Facebook or YouTube and tell you collected 6 acres of really heavy marble by yourself. And it's not dust yet. Over 5 million square feet of gypsum turned to dust. 5 million square feet of raw gypsum would fill up a half a container ship. But it wasn't raw gypsum. The Twin Towers skyscrapers were full of gypsum wallboards and ceilings, so add another container ship of material and turn to dust. The Tar Valley in southern France has the world's tallest vehicle bridge. It's 1,125 feet. Driving along the viaducts, it is said to feel like you're flying, and it has a series of 7 columns. Each one are 290 foot tall, and they weigh 700 tons. So the 200,000 tons of structural steel that turned to dust on September 11, 2001, if you divide it by the 700-ton towers, that's 285 towers that turned to dust. It's a lot. They're big towers, and that's a lot of dust. 285 of them is enough towers for 40 of those bridges. Or consider 200,000 tons of structural steel is enough to build 4 of the biggest container ships on Earth. There was 600,000 square foot of glass, and the weight is, you multiply 1.7 pounds for every 1/8 of an inch of a square foot of glass. And so that works out to 97 million pounds, or 2,448 transport trucks at 40,000 pounds per truck. It would create a 146,880 foot, or 29-mile traffic jam of transport trucks full of glass, bumper to bumper. And that also turned to dust on September 11, 2001.
But most interesting, in the mix, they are looking, they think, at specks of steel that used to be beams and elevators, marble from the lobby floor and facings. So what were once the strongest architectural elements in the 2 towers were pulverized, large portions turned into clouds like this one.